Imagine you're about to launch a new business. Instead of diving headfirst into development with a massive budget and months of planning, you start with a simple idea and a prototype. That's the essence of Eric Ries's groundbreaking book, The Lean Startup. This approach might sound unconventional, but it's transformed how many entrepreneurs and companies bring their ideas to life. Eric Ries, the author and thought leader behind The Lean Startup, isn't just a theorist. He's a seasoned entrepreneur who's been in the trenches. His insights come from real-world experience, not just academic theory. The book is a game-changer for anyone interested in startups, from first-time founders to seasoned business veterans looking to innovate within established companies. The Lean Startup introduces a fresh way to think about starting a business. Instead of spending years perfecting a product before releasing it, Ries advocates for a more agile approach. He suggests building a minimum viable product, MVP, testing it quickly, and using customer feedback to iterate and improve. This method emphasizes rapid learning and flexibility, helping startups avoid the common pitfalls of lengthy development cycles and hefty financial investments. Ries's goal with the Lean Startup is clear. He wants to help entrepreneurs create successful businesses by focusing on what truly matters, validating ideas, learning from real-world feedback, and making informed decisions. In this video, we'll dive into the core concepts and practical applications of Ries's approach, exploring how it can reshape your entrepreneurial journey and increase your chances of success. The origins of the Lean Startup methodology can be traced back to several key influences, most notably the lean manufacturing system pioneered by Toyota in the 20th century. Lean manufacturing focused on reducing waste, improving efficiency, and continuously enhancing processes to deliver better products to customers. Eric Ries saw parallels between the challenges faced by manufacturers and those encountered by startups, where resources are often scarce and there is a high degree of uncertainty. Ries adapted the principles of lean manufacturing to the world of startups, incorporating ideas from agile development, which emphasizes incremental progress and adaptability, and customer development, a concept introduced by Steve Blank that stresses the importance of understanding customer needs early in the product development process. These influences helped Ries develop the core concepts of the Lean Startup methodology. The first key concept is validated learning, which is the process of gaining knowledge about your product, customers, and market through experimentation and real-world data rather than relying on assumptions. This idea is central to the Lean Startup approach because it allows entrepreneurs to make decisions based on evidence rather than gut feelings or speculation. Another essential concept is the build, measure, learn feedback loop, which serves as the engine of the Lean Startup methodology. The idea is to build a simple version of your product, an MVP, measure its performance by gathering feedback from real customers, and then learn from that feedback to improve the product in the next iteration. This cycle is repeated until the product achieves a good fit with the market. A third core concept is innovation accounting, a framework for measuring progress in a startup. Unlike traditional businesses, where success is often measured by profit or market share, startups need to focus on learning and innovation. Innovation accounting provides metrics that help startups track their progress in validating hypotheses, refining their product, and finding a scalable business model. Together, these concepts form the foundation of the Lean Startup methodology, providing entrepreneurs with a structured approach to building businesses that can thrive in environments of extreme uncertainty. The build, measure, learn feedback loop is the heart of the Lean Startup methodology. It represents the continuous cycle of product development and improvement that allows startups to learn quickly and adjust their strategies based on real-world data. This approach ensures that startups don't waste time or resources building products that customers don't want. Build. The process starts with building an MPV, which is the simplest version of a product that can be launched to customers. The goal of the MVP is not to create a polished or complete product, but to test key assumptions about the business. By launching an MVP, startups can begin gathering feedback from customers as early as possible, rather than waiting until they have a fully developed product. Measure. After launching the MVP, the next step is to measure its performance. This involves collecting data on how customers interact with the product and whether it meets their needs. Measurement is crucial because it provides startups with concrete evidence about what's working and what isn't. By focusing on key metrics, such as customer engagement, retention, and conversion rates, startups can determine whether they are on the right track or if they need to make changes. Learn. Once the data has been collected, the next step is to learn from it. This involves analyzing the feedback and identifying what worked and what didn't. Based on this learning, the startup can decide whether to continue with its current strategy or make adjustments. In some cases, the learning might lead to a minor tweak in the product, while in others it might prompt a major pivot, a fundamental change in the business model or product direction. The beauty of the build, measure, learn loop is that it allows startups to operate in a state of constant iteration. Instead of spending months or years developing a product in isolation, startups can launch quickly, gather feedback, and improve their product based on real customer needs. This approach minimizes waste, reduces the risk of failure, and increases the likelihood of finding a product-market fit. Stop for a moment. If you're enjoying this summary, make sure to like and subscribe for more book summaries. Now, let's continue. Validated learning is a core principle of the lean startup methodology. It refers to the process of testing assumptions and hypotheses about a business idea in the real world and using the results to refine the product or strategy. Unlike traditional business planning, which relies on forecasts and assumptions, validated learning focuses on gaining real-world evidence about what customers want and how the market operates. At the beginning of a startup, entrepreneurs often have a set of assumptions about their product, their customers, and their market. These assumptions form the foundation of the business, but they are often untested and may not reflect reality. Validated learning allows entrepreneurs to systematically test these assumptions by conducting experiments and gathering data from real customers. One of the most effective tools for validated learning is the MPV, which is the simplest version of a product that can be used to test a key assumption. For example, if an entrepreneur assumes that customers will pay for a particular feature, they can build a basic version of the feature and see if customers are willing to buy it. By testing assumptions early and often, entrepreneurs can avoid investing too much time and money in ideas that might not work. The goal of validated learning is to transform assumptions into knowledge. As startups test their hypotheses, they gather data that either validates or invalidates their assumptions. If the data supports the assumptions, the startup can move forward with confidence. If the data contradicts the assumptions, the startup can pivot to a new strategy based on what they've learned. One of the key advantages of validated learning is that it allows startups to make decisions based on evidence rather than intuition or guesswork. This reduces the risk of failure and increases the chances of building a product that customers actually want. Innovation accounting is a concept introduced in the lean startup to help startups measure their progress in a meaningful way. Traditional accounting metrics such as profit, revenue, and market share are not always applicable to startups in the early stages because these businesses are still figuring out their product and market. Instead, startups need a different set of metrics that track their progress in terms of learning and innovation. Innovation accounting provides startups with a framework for measuring their progress in validating hypotheses, developing their product, and finding a scalable business model. It focuses on 3 key stages. Stage 1, establish a baseline. The first step in innovation accounting is to establish a baseline for the startup's key metrics. This involves launching the MVP and measuring how customers respond to it. By establishing a baseline, the startup can see how its initial product performs in the market and identify areas for improvement. Stage 2, tune the engine. Once the baseline has been established, the next step is to tune the engine by making changes to the product and measuring the impact of those changes. This involves running experiments to test different versions of the product and gathering data on how customers react. The goal is to improve the product's performance over time by making small, incremental changes. Stage 3, pivot or persevere. After running experiments and measuring their impact, the startup must decide whether to pivot or persevere. If the product is showing signs of success and gaining traction with customers, the startup can continue on its current path. However, if the product is not performing well, the startup may need to pivot to a new strategy or business model. This decision is based on the data gathered through innovation accounting, which provides a clear picture of the startup's progress. Innovation accounting helps startups avoid the trap of focusing on vanity metrics, such as the number of users or website visits, which don't provide meaningful insights into the business's long-term viability. Instead, it encourages startups to focus on actionable metrics that reflect their progress in building a sustainable business. The Lean Startup methodology is more than just a set of theoretical concepts. It's a practical approach that can be applied to real-world businesses. By following the principles of the Lean Startup, entrepreneurs can build products more efficiently, reduce waste, and increase their chances of success. Here's a step-by-step process of how Lean Startup principles can be applied in practice. Step 1. Identify assumptions. The first step is to identify the key assumptions that underpin the business idea. These could include assumptions about the target market, customer needs, pricing, and product features. The goal is to uncover the most critical assumptions that, if proven wrong, could jeopardize the success of the business. Step 2. Build an MVP. Once the assumptions have been identified, the next step is to build an MVP that tests one or more of those assumptions. The MVP should be the simplest version of the product that can be launched to customers. It doesn't need to be perfect or feature-rich. Its purpose is to gather feedback and validate or invalidate assumptions. Step 3. Launch and measure. After the MVP has been built, the startup launches it to a small group of customers and measures their reactions. This could involve tracking metrics such as customer engagement, retention, and conversion rates. The goal is to collect data that will provide insights into how well the product meets customer needs. Step 4. Analyze feedback and learn. Based on the data collected from the MVP, the startup analyzes the feedback and identifies areas for improvement. This process of learning is crucial because it allows the startup to make informed decisions about the product's future development. Step 5. Iterate and improve. After learning from the feedback, the startup makes changes to the product and launches a new version. This process of iteration continues as the startup refines its product based on real-world feedback. Over time, the product becomes more aligned with customer needs and more likely to succeed in the market. Step 6. Decide whether to pivot or persevere. At various points in the development process, the startup must decide whether to pivot or persevere. If the product is gaining traction and showing signs of success, the startup can continue on its current path. However, if the product is not meeting customer needs, or if the market is not responding, the startup may need to pivot to a new strategy or business model. By following this process, startups can reduce waste, minimize the risk of failure, and increase their chances of finding a product-market fit. One of the most important decisions that startups face is whether to pivot or persevere. A pivot is a fundamental change in the business model or product strategy, while perseverance involves continuing on the current path with incremental improvements. Knowing when to pivot and when to persevere is a critical skill for entrepreneurs, and the Lean Startup provides guidelines for making this decision. A pivot is necessary when the startup's current product or business model is not working. This could be due to a lack of customer interest, poor product performance, or changes in the market. A pivot allows the startup to change direction and pursue a new strategy based on what they've learned from previous experiments. There are several types of pivots that a startup can make. Zoom in. Pivot. In this pivot, a single feature of the product becomes the entire product. This happens when the startup realizes that one particular feature is more valuable to customers than the rest of the product. Zoom out. Pivot. In contrast, a zoom-out pivot occurs when the startup realizes that the product is not sufficient on its own and needs to be expanded into a larger offering. Customer segment pivot. This pivot involves changing the target customer segment. If the product is not resonating with the original target audience, the startup may decide to pursue a different group of customers who are more likely to benefit from the product. Platform pivot. In this pivot, the startup changes from an application to a platform, or vice versa. This happens when the startup realizes that the real value lies in the underlying platform rather than the specific application. Business model pivot. This pivot involves changing the way the startup makes money. For example, a startup that initially relies on a subscription model may switch to a freemium model or a pay-per-use model. Technology. Pivot. A technology pivot occurs when the startup changes the underlying technology used to build the product. This might be necessary if the current technology is too expensive, inefficient, or outdated. While pivots can be difficult, they are often necessary for startups to survive and thrive. The key to making a successful pivot is to base the decision on data and learning. If the data shows that the current strategy is not working, it's better to pivot early and explore a new direction rather than continue down a path that leads to failure. However, perseverance is the right choice when the data shows that the startup is making progress, even if the progress is slow. In this case, the startup can continue iterating on its product, refining its features and improving its performance. The decision to persevere is based on the belief that the product is moving toward a good product-market fit and that continued improvements will lead to success. While the lean startup methodology was originally developed for startups, its principles can be applied to a wide range of organizations, including large corporations, nonprofits, and government agencies. In fact, many established companies have adopted lean startup practices to stay competitive and innovative in today's fast-changing business environment. One of the key advantages of the lean startup methodology is its focus on agility and adaptability. In a traditional corporate setting, innovation is often stifled by bureaucracy, long decision-making processes, and a reluctance to take risks. By adopting lean startup principles, large organizations can create a culture of experimentation and innovation that allows them to respond more quickly to changes in the market. For example, several large corporations such as General Electric and Intuit have implemented lean startup practices within their innovation teams. These companies encourage their employees to build MPVS, test assumptions, and iterate quickly based on customer feedback. By doing so, they are able to develop new products more efficiently and with less risk. Nonprofits and government agencies have also embraced lean startup principles to improve their operations and deliver better services to their constituents. For example, the U.S. government's 18F and the U.K.'s Government Digital Service have both used lean startup methods to develop digital services that meet the needs of citizens more effectively. In these cases, the lean startup methodology helps organizations avoid the pitfalls of large-scale, top-down projects that often fail to meet their objectives. Instead, they can launch small-scale pilots, gather feedback, and make adjustments based on real-world data. This approach not only improves efficiency, but also ensures that the end product is more closely aligned with the needs of the people it serves. The Lean Startup by Eric Ries has reshaped the way entrepreneurs approach building businesses. By introducing concepts like validated learning, the build, measure, learn feedback loop, and innovation accounting, Ries has provided a framework that allows startups to move quickly, learn from their mistakes, and adapt to changing market conditions. The Lean Startup methodology challenges traditional business planning by emphasizing agility, experimentation, and customer feedback. Rather than spending months or years developing a product in isolation, entrepreneurs are encouraged to launch quickly, test their assumptions, and make improvements based on real-world data. One of the most important takeaways from the Lean Startup is that failure is not something to be feared, but rather a valuable learning opportunity. By embracing failure and learning from it, entrepreneurs can improve their products and increase their chances of success. In an age where innovation is happening at an unprecedented pace, the Lean Startup methodology has proven to be a valuable tool not just for startups, but for any organization that wants to stay competitive and innovative. In conclusion, the Lean Startup offers a practical, actionable guide for anyone looking to create a successful business in a rapidly changing world. By following the principles outlined in the book, entrepreneurs can reduce waste, minimize risk, and increase their chances of building products that truly meet the needs of their customers. I hope you enjoyed this summary. Be sure to explore more summaries on our channel. See you in the next video.